For 30 years, it was the biggest ghost in America. Imagine a building so big you could see it from miles away. But instead of lights and people, it was full of darkness. It had 18 floors, and every single window was smashed. Trees were literally growing on the roof. Snow blew into the main lobby. People used to sneak inside just to take photos of the destruction. It was called the Ruins of Detroit. Everyone said it was impossible to save. They said it was too broken, too expensive, and too far gone. They said the only thing to do was knock it down and forget it ever happened. But they were wrong. Today, if you walk into that same building, you won't see broken glass. You will see golden chandeliers. You won't smell rot and damp, you will smell fresh coffee and polished stone. This is the story of Michigan Central Station. We are going to look at how it went from the most famous abandoned building in the world to the miracle of 2025. This isn't just a story about bricks and mortar. It is a story about how a city refused to die. To understand why this restoration is so special, we have to go back to the beginning. The station opened in 1913. That is over 110 years ago. Back then, Detroit was the richest, fastest-growing city in America. It was the Silicon Valley of its time. The car industry was booming, and the city needed a train station to match its power. And they didn't just build a station. They built a palace. The architects who designed it were the same people who built Grand Central Station in New York City. They used the best materials money could buy. They imported stone from Europe. They built massive marble columns that looked like something from ancient Rome. It was the tallest train station in the world. For decades, this was the front door to Detroit. Soldiers went off to war from here. Presidents arrived here. Families hugged on the platforms. It was the beating heart of the city. But then the world changed. In the 1950s and 60s, people stopped taking trains. They started driving cars and flying in planes. The station got quieter and quieter. Finally, on January 5, 1988, the very last train pulled away from the platform. The doors were locked. The lights were turned off. And the building was left alone. This is where the scary part of the story begins. For the next 30 years, the station was wide open to the elements. Scrappers, people who steal metal to sell, broke in. They ripped out the wiring. They stole the brass ticket gates. They even stole the antique drinking fountains. The basement, which was huge, flooded with millions of gallons of water. It became a dark, underground lake. An architect who visited the building in 2011 said it was terrifying. He went into the dark basement with a flashlight. On a pillar, he saw graffiti that said, "This is where you die." The building became a symbol of Detroit's failure. Photographers came from all over the world to take pictures of the beautiful ruins. It was sad. It looked like the skeleton of a giant beast. Many mayors and city planners argued about it. Most of them wanted to demolish it. They said it was an eyesore. But the building was built so strongly that tearing it down would have cost millions of dollars. So, it just sat there rotting year after year. Then, in 2018, something shocking happened. Ford Motor Company bought the ruin. They announced a plan that sounded crazy. They were going to fix it. They didn't just want to patch it up. They wanted to make it look exactly like it did in 1913. The price tag? Nearly $1 billion. The work was incredibly hard. First, they had to pump out all that water from the basement. Then they had to dry out the building. It had been wet for 30 years. The biggest problem was the stone. The original limestone came from a specific quarry, a stone mine, in Indiana. But that quarry had been closed for years. To fix the station, they actually found the old quarry and reopened it just to get the perfect matching stone. That is how detailed this project was. For the fancy decorations that were smashed or missing, they used modern technology. They used 3D scanners to scan the few pieces that were left. Then they used robots and 3D printers to carve new pieces that fit perfectly. They had to replace over 8 miles of grout, the cement between bricks. They installed thousands of new windows. It took more than 3,000 workers 6 years of non-stop work. So, what does it look like now? When the doors finally reopened in June 2024, people cried. Literally. Grown men and women who remembered the station from their childhood walked in and wept. The Grand Hall is breathtaking. The huge windows let in golden light. The ceiling, which used to be peeling and covered in mold, is now restored with beautiful tiles. But here is my favorite detail. They didn't fix everything. If you look closely at some of the walls, you can still see bits of graffiti. You can see scars on the stone. Ford decided to keep some of the damage on purpose. They wanted to show the history. They didn't want to erase the 30 years of darkness. They wanted to show that the building survived it. They also used 3D printing to recreate the old clock that used to hang above the entrance. The original was stolen decades ago, but the new one looks exactly the same. It isn't a train station anymore, though. Well, not yet. Right now, it is a hub for technology. Google has offices there. Ford has teams working on self-driving cars and drones. It is a place for the future. As we move through 2025, Michigan Central Station is more than just an office building. It is a promise kept. There is even exciting news for the future. In late 2025, plans are moving forward to bring passenger trains back to the station area by 2028. After 40 years of silence, the sound of train whistles might return to Corktown. This building teaches us a powerful lesson. No matter how broken something looks, no matter how much people say, it's over, it can be saved. It takes money, but mostly, it takes vision. Detroit didn't give up on this station. And in return, this station is helping Detroit rise again. If you ever get the chance to visit Detroit, go to Corktown. Stand in front of this massive building. Look at the windows. And remember, just a few years ago, this was a ruin. Now it is a jewel. What do you think? Do you prefer the spooky look of the abandoned ruins, or do you like the restored version better? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this story of transformation, please hit that like button and subscribe. I have more stories about lost cities and abandoned places coming soon. Thanks for watching.